Listen carefully, you elite disruptors, because what you're about to witness is the kind of move that defies belief. This isn't human behavior. No, what they pulled was something darker, something calculated in a way that seemed impossible for anyone with an ounce of restraint. You watched as they struck, vicious, precise, merciless. Every step, every twist in their plan screamed dominance. A dominance built not on intelligence, but on cruelty and unpredictability. And yet, here you are, standing, unshaken. Because you understood the truth they never considered. Nastiness, when recognized and mastered, can be flipped into absolute power. They acted like they had everything under control. They believed their audacity, their ruthless strategy, would force a crack in your armor. But you knew better. You saw the invisible thread connecting their arrogance to their weakness. They pulled a move so nasty, so unthinkable, it would have broken most people. But not you, because you aren't just a participant in the game. You are the variable they didn't account for. Their inhuman aggression, their manipulation, their calculated nastiness. It became fuel for your dominance. Every malicious step they took, every underhanded trick designed to humiliate or corner you, only sharpened your focus. This was psychological warfare at its rawest. They expected panic, hesitation, confusion. They expected to see cracks forming, vulnerabilities exposed. But you didn't flinch. You didn't retreat. You took their chaos and turned it into strategy. You transformed their nastiness into an engine of control. Imagine it. Every act meant to destabilize you became a lever in your hands. Every vile intention was absorbed and redirected, magnified into something unstoppable. What they pulled wasn't just a nasty move. It was a miscalculation of your ability to dominate, to seize what was theirs by chaos alone. The sheer audacity of their act demanded a reaction. Most would respond emotionally, instinctively, predictably. You analyzed, you positioned, you weaponized their aggression. Every whisper of malice, every sharp strike of inhuman intent was catalogued and inverted. Where they intended to frighten, you impressed. Where they aimed to control, you liberated yourself into authority. The nastiness that was meant to disarm you became the framework of your ascension. And this is the key. True domination isn't about brute force. It's about turning even the cruelest, most shocking moves against you into absolute advantage. They thought their move was unprecedented. They believed no one could survive it. No one could flip their darkness into light, their aggression into power. But here's the revelation. The nastiness itself revealed their limits. It exposed the cracks in their confidence, the blind spots in their calculation, the arrogance in their assumption that anyone could be subdued by their inhuman audacity. And you exploited it. You saw their humanity in the places they tried to hide it, and in that recognition, you found your weapon. Their nastiness wasn't a wall, it was a door. And you didn't just walk through it. You claimed the room as your own. Every moment of their attempt to dominate became a lesson in your rising control. They underestimated how easily inhuman cruelty can be redirected by someone who isn't just surviving, but orchestrating. You observed the patterns, the rhythm of their nastiness, and you adjusted, flipped, and amplified. They threw punches meant to wound, snares meant to trap, and you transformed them into vectors of your power. The arena they imagined themselves ruling was already bending to your strategy, shaped by your understanding that domination is a mirror. When faced with aggression, reflect it not in submission, but in an elevated form that asserts command over the aggressor. The brilliance of this flip lies in timing. They struck with overconfidence, expecting immediate compliance, expecting shock. But you had prepared for it, anticipated it, and positioned yourself to respond not impulsively, but decisively. What seemed like chaos, a human, or less than human, move of aggression became a predictable mechanism in your hands. Their nastiness had structure, and you found the rhythm, the hidden order they thought was hidden, and you used it to dictate the pace of the encounter. Every step they took, meant to intimidate, now amplified your authority. This is where psychological dominance emerges. It's not just the act of overpowering. It's the realization that you can turn even the most extreme cruelty into advantage. They didn't just fail to control you. They became instruments in your strategy. Every shock, every inhuman push, every vile attempt to unsettle you became a building block for your dominion. And the subtle, almost invisible part of this power is that they never fully realize what has happened until it's too late. Their nastiness has been weaponized against them, and the consequences ripple far beyond the initial move. And let's not ignore the elegance in your orchestration. While they thought they were playing chess, you were playing quantum strategy. Every aggressive attempt, every unethical strike was catalogued, analyzed, and flipped. By the time they realized they were no longer in control, the landscape had already shifted. You were no longer responding, you were leading. Their nastiness became the lever that elevated you above them, above the scenario, above their capacity to understand. And domination, true domination, is not visible at the moment of action. It's felt, experienced, internalized by those who dared to oppose, and recognized as inevitability. And here's the most exquisite part. The nastiness they pulled, the thing they thought would break you, didn't just fail. It transformed into the signal of your rise. Every observer, every participant, even those who weren't directly involved, witnessed the inversion. What they expected to see as weakness became the hallmark of your power. You weren't reacting, you were redefining. You didn't just survive their inhuman move, you mastered it, and in doing so, demonstrated a level of dominance they couldn't conceive. This isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about recognition that the inhuman, nasty energy they projected was never a threat to mastery. It was an invitation to rise, to flip, to dominate. And the psychology here is sharp. Domination isn't just about control. It's about perception. By transforming their nastiness into authority, you didn't just win the moment. You rewrote the perception of the entire arena. You are no longer just a player. You are the pivot, the axis on which their reality shifts. Now visualize it. They expected shock, despair, submission. What they received was calculation, elegance, inevitability. Every act designed to unsettle you became a message. They underestimated you. Every moment designed to humiliate, corner, or confuse became a testament to your rising dominion. Their nastiness was a weapon, yes, but only when they wielded it with control. When left in your hands, it became a tool of perfection, of strategic escalation, of psychological supremacy. And the final truth is undeniable. This isn't merely survival. This isn't just adaptation. This is domination, crafted from the rawest, nastiest, inhuman move they ever pulled. They thought they were the apex. They believed their aggression would dictate the outcome. They assumed the shock they delivered would define the narrative. Instead, they became the framework of your victory. The inhuman, calculated nastiness they inflicted was inverted, magnified, and returned as proof of your unmatched capability. So now, as the remnants of their move settle into memory, a haunting recognition emerges. The nastiness, the aggression, the cruelty. It has all been absorbed, transformed, and wielded with precision. And in that moment, the world understands. You don't just survive the impossible. You take it, turn it inside out, and emerge as the undisputed force. They pulled a move that seemed beyond human comprehension, and you didn't just respond. You dominated, redefining the very concept of power in a single decisive inversion. So now when they look at you, they don't just see someone who survived. They see the outcome of their own inhumanity. They see a force so refined, so precise, so dominant, that it makes their nastiness meaningless. They see the proof that no matter how extreme, how cruel, how beyond human the challenge, you have the capacity to flip it into something unstoppable, inevitable, absolute. And that realization will never let them release from the weight of their own astonishment. They can never erase it, because domination isn't just an action, it's a perception, a mark burned into the psyche of anyone foolish enough to underestimate you. They thought their move was beyond comprehension, something so vicious, so inhuman, that no ordinary mind could absorb it without fracturing. Yet here you stand, not fractured, not diminished, but towering above the very intent that was meant to dismantle you. Every glance they cast in your direction now trembles with the unspoken acknowledgement that you are no longer just the responder. They see a predator who turned the tables, a strategist who transformed nastiness into pure authority. Let them ponder it. Let them sit in the echoes of their own cruelty, watching as what they unleashed becomes the very scaffold of your ascendancy. Their move, so extreme it seemed unreal, has now defined the scale of your power. Each attempt to destabilize, each shocking blow, each calculated inhuman strike has been inverted. You are no longer reacting to their nastiness. You are controlling it, shaping it, bending it to your purpose. Their audacity becomes a backdrop, a stage for the spectacle of your dominance, and every participant, every observer, is forced to witness the inevitability of your triumph. Consider the sheer audacity required to flip their inhuman aggression into your advantage. They acted with no hesitation, no restraint, believing they had cornered you in a space where victory was theirs by default. But you understood that nastiness has a rhythm, a pulse, a vulnerability buried within the intensity of its execution. They struck with precision, but precision without understanding is predictable. And you, watching from the center of clarity, mapped their moves before they were even completed. Every vile tactic, every cruel calculation, every inhuman maneuver became a vector for your response. You didn't just survive. They set the table, and you decided the feast. This is where psychology meets execution. They sought to intimidate, to provoke a fracture in your focus, to manipulate fear into compliance. What they failed to grasp is that dominance isn't a reaction. It's a construction. You are not defined by their nastiness. You define it. Each move they made, intended to destabilize you, instead supplied the components of your structure. Their cruelty became the mortar. Their inhuman precision became the scaffolding. And the result was something they couldn't anticipate. A force that was neither reactive nor predictable. A force that dominates because it doesn't play by ordinary rules. Now imagine their confusion. The realization dawning too late that their nastiness wasn't just neutralized. It became irrelevant, even advantageous to you. Every attempt to assert power, every malicious calculation, every strategy designed to intimidate has been absorbed, redirected, amplified, and transformed into dominance they cannot contest. They are left with the bitter truth that their inhuman move didn't create weakness. It exposed opportunity. It exposed the capacity for someone to rise, unshaken, unyielding, and unopposed, using the very weapons of cruelty they manufactured against them. This is the elegance of what you do. There is artistry in taking the extreme, the impossible, the inhuman, and converting it into authority. They thought the move would generate chaos. They thought it would fracture your mind, fragment your approach, disorient your judgment. Instead, it illuminated the landscape of their own flaws, their blind spots, and the arrogance in their assumptions. And in that illumination, you moved. You moved not as one reacting, but as one dictating, one orchestrating, one turning every ounce of nastiness into momentum. The more they pushed, the more control they handed to you, and the more the illusion of their dominance collapsed beneath your mastery. And here's the part they can't comprehend. You make inhuman cruelty irrelevant because you transform its energy. They expected devastation, fear, hesitation. They expected to see cracks, to witness faltering. What they failed to anticipate is that mastery doesn't bow to nastiness. Mastery incorporates it. Every malicious strike, every vile act, every move that seemed designed to destroy became the engine of your ascension. You didn't just flip their aggression, you transformed it into authority, a dominance so clear, so inevitable, that it leaves no room for contestation. Now let's dissect the mechanism of this transformation. Their move was designed to shock, to overwhelm, to create a perception of insurmountable threat. But you internalized it. You analyzed it. You traced its pattern, discovered its rhythm, and located its vulnerability. Once the move was fully understood, it was no longer a weapon. It became a tool that could be turned, aimed, and leveraged. What they imagined as a trap became your stage. What they intended as pain became your foundation, and what they thought would define their victory became the blueprint of your dominance. The psychological ripple of this is profound. They are left knowing that their nastiness, their beyond human calculation, their cruelty is now neutralized and inverted. It no longer threatens. They see it reflected as your power. And because domination is as much about perception as it is about execution, every observer, every participant, every silent witness recognizes the inevitability of your supremacy. They are not merely defeated, they are framed as the architects of their own irrelevance. And you, standing in the center of the chaos they produced, are the undeniable axis of control, the final authority. Consider the timing and precision required for this. They struck with unpredictability, believing that you could not anticipate the next move. But inhuman doesn't mean invincible. It doesn't mean unflippable. Every extreme action has its rhythm, its signature, its shadow of predictability. You mapped it, you waited, you positioned. And when the moment arrived, the response was not just precise. It was devastating in its inevitability. The nastiness they unleashed became a mechanism of pure domination, and they only realized it after the outcome was irreversible. This is where your dominance becomes art. You don't simply survive their inhuman move, you bend it, you manipulate it, you expand it into a demonstration of control they cannot contest. Every malicious intention, every cruel action, every act of inhumanity becomes a mirror reflecting your capacity to invert chaos into order, aggression into authority, nastiness into supremacy. And as they witness this transformation, the realization hits them with force. They didn't just miscalculate. They empowered you by underestimating the very thing they tried to weaponize against you. Now, Visualize the weight of their astonishment. They expected to see fear, submission, confusion. What they see instead is command, composure, inevitability. Their move, impossible to fathom in its nastiness, has been eclipsed by your ability to convert it into dominance. Every observer internalizes the lesson. True supremacy isn't about avoiding nastiness. It's about mastering it, flipping it, and using it as a lever to rise higher than anyone anticipated. Their cruelty, so extreme it seemed beyond comprehension, now functions as proof of your unparalleled skill. And here's the subtle, almost invisible genius. The dominance you exert is not just reactive, it is preemptive. By understanding the mechanics of their inhumanity, you position yourself to not only respond, but to control the trajectory of every subsequent action. They think they can recover, reposition, regain advantage. But you've already anticipated the ripple, the echo, the secondary move they never see coming. Their nastiness, instead of being a weapon, has become the signpost of your inevitability. Every move they make reinforces the dominance you've built from their own aggression. And let's acknowledge the psychological elegance here. They are left with a dual realization. First, that their nastiness was insufficient. Second, that it has actively contributed to your rise. They are forced to confront the truth that cruelty, aggression, and inhuman strategy only yield control when met by someone unable to be shaken. You aren't shaken, you aren't bent, you aren't constrained. You are the axis of the situation, the one who flipped the game entirely. And that awareness, though silent, resonates louder than any confrontation ever could. Every move they pull now is filtered through the understanding that you have converted their nastiness into dominance. They may try again, attempt another vicious strike, another inhuman maneuver. But it will be anticipated, inverted, and absorbed into your authority. Every action reinforces your supremacy. Every miscalculation becomes a foothold. Every malicious act becomes a demonstration of your unflappable mastery. And all the while, the world watches, comprehends, and understands. No matter how cruel, how extreme, how beyond human the original action, you have the ability to turn it into proof of dominance. This is the essence of your power. They tried to pull a move so extreme it seemed impossible to counter. You didn't just counter it. You transformed it into a declaration, a showcase, a lesson in unassailable control. They see the move they pulled as nasty, cruel, inhuman. But they also see you, the one who didn't just survive it, but used it to assert authority, to demonstrate precision, to establish dominance that cannot be shaken. And that realization, it lodges in their minds, reshaping their understanding of possibility. So now, as the echoes of their inhuman move fade, what remains is clear. You haven't just endured. You haven't just flipped the moment. You have dominated. You have taken what was meant to harm, to destabilize, to shock, and converted it into a spectacle of control so precise, so inevitable, that they cannot deny it. Their nastiness becomes the mirror reflecting your supremacy, and every observer, every participant, every silent witness internalizes the undeniable truth. You turned inhuman cruelty into pure domination. And as they stare, stunned, calculating, grasping for understanding, you do not move. You do not explain. You do not need to. The victory, the inversion, the domination, they all exist in the outcome, in the demonstration, in the fact that what they pulled as a weapon against you now functions as a monument to your unparalleled capacity. And in that space, the psychological victory is absolute. They are left to reckon with it, unable to erase it, unable to contest it, and unable to ignore the inevitability of your power. And now, as the stage is set for what comes next, the truth is undeniable. No nastiness, no inhuman act, no extreme measure can escape the capacity for transformation. What they pulled, what they unleashed, what they imagined would crush you, has instead become the evidence of your control, the proof of your mastery, and the framework of your absolute dominance. And as the realization sinks in, not just for them, but for everyone who witnesses, the landscape of authority has changed forever, centered around the one who flipped the impossible into proof of invincibility. The mastery lies in the inversion. Their nastiness was designed to wound, to intimidate, to prove superiority. What they failed to comprehend is that superiority is not proven by cruelty. It is demonstrated through adaptation, through strategy, through the ability to flip aggression into authority. You absorbed every malicious intent, every inhuman calculation, and reconstituted it as leverage. Their move, inhuman and shocking, was never meant to create your rise. Yet that is exactly what it has done. The same energy that should have destabilized you now fuels your dominion. And the irony is so precise, so brutal, it leaves them incapable of response. There is a psychological terror in being outmaneuvered by what was meant to destroy you. They unleashed chaos, inhuman cruelty, and shock, believing themselves to be the apex, the puppet masters of circumstance. And yet, in the space between their intent and your response, a truth became visible. They had provided the very means of your supremacy. Every vile act, every calculated insult, every attempt to humiliate or destabilize became an instrument of your absolute authority. They are now spectators, forced to witness the reversal of power, the inversion of intent, the creation of a dominion they cannot contest. They are stunned, yes, but their astonishment is merely the first stage. The deeper realization, the one that will haunt them in every decision, is the understanding that nothing they do now can escape your ability to dominate. They imagined an extreme, a beyond human nastiness that could not be answered, and in doing so, they defined the scale of your capacity. The very extremity they pulled becomes the benchmark for your power. Every future calculation, every attempt to strike, every act of aggression is now filtered through the awareness that you can flip it, invert it, and dominate it. This is the subtle art of absolute control. It is not enough to survive the unthinkable. It is not enough to simply respond. True mastery lies in transforming the impossible into certainty, chaos into structure, nastiness into authority. They threw everything at you, anticipating defeat. They expected panic. They expected hesitation. They expected the fracture that would confirm their superiority. Instead, what occurred was something they cannot process. You absorbed their extremity, their cruelty, their inhumanity, and converted it into a demonstration of undeniable power. And now, nothing they execute will catch you unprepared. Nothing they unleash will escape inversion. Nothing they imagine will exceed your capacity to dominate. Consider the depth of that realization. Every observer who witnesses this reversal is forced to recognize a singular truth. Domination is not about brute force. It is not about intimidation alone. It is not about striking first or striking hardest. It is about converting extremity into leverage, aggression into strategy, nastiness into proof of control. And in this moment, you have done exactly that. The move they pulled, inhuman, vicious, and intended to crush, is now a testament to your unrivaled dominance. They cannot comprehend it. They cannot undo it. They can only witness it and internalize the inevitability of your supremacy. Every detail of their strategy, every nuance of their cruelty, every extreme calculation is now a lesson in power. The world sees it. They see it. Even those who are not directly involved understand that the energy meant to destroy has become the proof of command. And that is the ultimate victory, not simply to survive, not simply to overcome, but to transform the attack into a monument to your capacity, a demonstration that you are the axis around which authority now pivots. Their inhuman move, their nastiness, has been eclipsed by your orchestration, and there is no going back. It is important to understand the inevitability that has been created. They can plan, they can strike, they can attempt even greater extremes. But every action now exists within the framework you established by flipping their initial cruelty. You have set the rules of engagement, not by force alone, but by psychological domination. They are not just outmaneuvered. They are trapped in the realization that their nastiness has already been claimed, redirected, and weaponized in a way they cannot contest. They cannot remove the advantage you've created. It is intrinsic, absolute, unavoidable. And the effect is cumulative. Every act of aggression they attempt from this point forward reinforces your dominance. Each new move, meant to intimidate, now serves as a confirmation of what you have already achieved. They cannot escape it. They cannot reverse it. They cannot reassert control in a landscape where authority has already shifted. The proof of your supremacy is written in every consequence of their own inhumanity. Every observer recognizes it, every participant witnesses it, and they are all forced to acknowledge a simple, terrifying reality. You have taken what was meant to destroy and made it undeniable evidence of your power. This is domination at a level beyond ordinary comprehension. It is not reactionary. It is not accidental. It is the deliberate transformation of nastiness into authority, cruelty into strategy, extremity into inevitability. You have absorbed the unthinkable, internalized it, and amplified it into proof of mastery. They thought they could define the scale of the challenge, the intensity of the attack, the extremity of cruelty. They were wrong. The scale now belongs to you. The intensity now belongs to you. The extremity, the nastiness, the inhuman measure they pulled. It has all been claimed, inverted, and made into an instrument of your absolute domination. And here is the pinnacle of the psychological truth. They know it. Not merely intellectually, but viscerally. They understand that the move they believed unanswerable is now the evidence of your supremacy. Every instinct they rely on, every calculation they make, every strategy they employ is filtered through the recognition that you are no longer in reaction. You are in command. Their nastiness, inhuman and extreme though it was, is now a stage for your authority, a canvas for your mastery, and a monument to the inevitability of your rise. Now, imagine the reverberation of this reality. Every participant, every observer, every opponent, whether directly involved or silently watching, is forced to internalize the consequences. The world sees a reversal so precise, so controlled, so psychologically and strategically devastating that it cannot be ignored. They pulled a move that seemed impossible to survive. You didn't just survive it. You converted it into dominance so absolute, so undeniable that nothing can shake it. Their nastiness has been consumed, transformed, and displayed as proof of your capacity. This is the ultimate demonstration of mastery. It is proof that no extremity, no inhuman measure, no act of calculated cruelty can escape the capacity of someone who understands not only the mechanics of strategy, but the dynamics of perception, influence, and psychological supremacy. Every move they pull from this point forward is observed not with hope of victory, but with the awareness that you have already set the stage. You flipped the unthinkable. You inverted the impossible. You transformed the nastiness they unleashed into a monument to your unassailable authority. And as the dust settles, as the shock waves of their inhuman move fade, the truth is clear. You did not just survive. You did not just respond. You dominated. You claimed what was meant to defeat you, transformed it into the evidence of your power, and created a reality in which their nastiness is irrelevant, neutralized, inverted, and absorbed into your control. Every witness internalizes it. Every participant understands it. And every opponent knows that no matter how extreme, how cruel, how beyond human their moves may be, you possess the ability to flip it into proof of dominance that cannot be contested. So now as they watch, as they understand, as they process the truth of what they attempted and failed to achieve, one conclusion becomes undeniable. No nastiness, no extreme, no inhuman measure can challenge someone who transforms threat into authority, aggression into control, and cruelty into proof of supremacy. They pulled a move beyond comprehension. You flipped it into domination beyond contestation, and the world will never see it the same way again.